Good morning and welcome to the Planning Hearing Officer hearings for July 30th, 2014. My name is Laura Stotler and I am serving today as Planning Hearing Officer. We have two cases today and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Both of the cases are located at the same address. Therefore, we will have one hearing. The agenda, staff reports, and recommendation for each of today's cases can be found on the city's website. A copy of the hearing procedures are available on the counter by the front door, next to the agendas and copies of the staff report. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if four required findings are present. For applications involving the sale, survey, or consumption of alcoholic beverages, there are also 5 additional criteria that can be considered. For parking reduction permits, applications for parking reduction permits shall meet the procedures and criteria set forth in Section 30.32.070A and Table 30.32.B with qualifying project features. A discussion of findings for parking reduction permits and conditional use permits can be found in the staff reports. If the findings and evidence presented at the hearing meets the criteria, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the cases in question. If the findings, in fact, are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners and occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property. The sites were physically posted on with a sign noting the date of the hearing, and an advertisement was placed in the local newspaper and also posted on the city's website. Hearings will proceed as follows. First, I'll read a description of the requested entitlements. The case planner will then make a brief overview of the case and give an analysis and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present a case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will then be asked to come forward to speak, stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by the preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and then the case will then be taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing. It will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who have responded to the public notice and who have left their name and address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. However, if a decision is made at this hearing, the decision date will be today's date, and a 15-day appeal period will start today. Under the appeals provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures and the procedures from the Permit Services Center located in room 101 of this building. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of these speakers' request forms. Write your name and address on one of our speakers' forms, and please provide it to our planning assistant. I noticed that we did have one that came in late, I understand, so you don't need to worry about filling out a green one. I have this is fine. Yeah, that's fine. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of this hearing are being recorded as part of the public record. So for the first case, and actually the only case on the agenda, it's located at 3214 Honolulu Avenue. It's conditional use permit case PCUP 1410836, and also parking reduction permit case number PPRP 1410842. The applicant is Andrea Lee. Case planner is Jeff Hamilton. This is an application for conditional use permit to operate a private educational business in a C1 zone and a request for a parking reduction permit to allow the operation of a private educational business without providing the additional required code parking located at 3214 Honolulu Avenue in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Center. And with that, I would like to ask the case planner to please provide an overview.
Thank you. The project is located on the south side of Honolulu near the intersection with Pennsylvania. You can see it in the aerial photograph here. It's a small commercial center consisting of roughly 4 storefronts. 2 of the storefronts have been were altered in the past or combined in the past into one 3,050 square foot tenant space. That's where the proposed school is going to be, basically on this westerly side of the building. The site has a 19-space parking lot. Under the provisions of our parking regulations, whenever there's a proposed change of use, the new use has to provide the parking, the difference in the amount of parking compared to the old use. The old use had no required parking. There's 19 spaces. The new use has a 79-space parking requirement. That's the subject of the parking reduction permit. Also, because this is in a C1 zone, private educational facilities are not permitted unless they obtain a conditional use permit. So it's conditionally allowed in the zone. In 2006, in fact, a conditional use permit was granted for a private educational facility at this location for a period of 5 years under a different operator. That permit was not renewed. It expired in 2011. The current business has been operating since 2011 as Yale UC College Application Services, functioning as a general office use. They have been cited for a few things. They've been cited for operating a private school without the appropriate permit, so that's one reason they're in here trying to get these 2 permits. They've also been cited for some illegal alterations or unpermitted alterations inside the building and for signs erected without appropriate permits. In addition to the proposed private school on the one side of the building, there is also a software company functioning as a general office in the tenants in the shopping center. And there's also a basement area in the building that has been approved many years ago as an artist studio. I circulated the project application to various city departments. There were no comments or objections or even proposed conditions of approval from any department, including traffic and transportation or police. We have received 2 comments from members of the public. They should be in the file. One was a series of emails and a photograph, and then the other one, I believe, was just one email. Both were in opposition to the proposed request. According to the applicant, the business owns 2 minivans and a 12-passenger van and will use these vehicles to transport children from various schools in the area to the tutoring center. This helps reduce the number of automobile trips to and from the center quite significantly. The busiest time generally would be between 3 and 5:30 after school lets out, and before parents start to arrive to pick up their children after school. That's the busiest time for the use of the vans. The highest number of vehicles might actually occur after 5:30. It's worth pointing out that most of the software business will be closed by then, and most of the shopping center, if not all of the parking spaces, will then effectively be available for use by the tutoring center. The tutoring center has proposed to have up to 6 tutors and a capacity of 25 to 30 students with hours of operation from 2 until 7 p.m. Staff believes that the findings necessary to approve the parking reduction permit and the conditional use permit can be made. We believe that the purpose of the parking regulations is to make sure that there's enough parking to serve the business. With the way the business is proposed to operate, the fact that there was a similar business there in the past that apparently had created no calls for service or significant objections noted by police or traffic, the use of the vans, all these speak to an arrangement that staff believes will allow the business to function without creating significant impacts related to traffic congestion, parking, or noise. We also believe that using the site as a private educational facility is reasonable, will not cause undue harm or create any hazards to the general health and safety of the neighborhood. It functioned in the past as a private educational facility at this location. There were no calls for service, no impacts noted by departments or even complaints from neighbors, as far as I could tell by reviewing the file. In sum, I think that the project will function appropriately. It will not create impacts related to parking. It will not create significant impacts related to noise. The hours of operation are generally compatible with the other businesses in there. This will allow a neighborhood-serving business to function in a neighborhood location. It is a commercial street. It seems like an appropriate use at that location. In addition to the various findings that I have not elaborated on that are in the staff report, I proposed originally 7 conditions of approval. I'd like to also recommend 3 potential additional conditions of approval. First, I think that we ought to have a condition stating that the hours of operation run from 2 till 7 p.m., or at least we should hear from the applicant as to what a reasonable closing time should be, and that should be articulated in the conditions of approval. In addition, we should probably limit the maximum number of employees to a maximum of 7, because they say they're going to have a maximum of 6 tutors. That would imply that there's maybe 1 administrator. Again, the applicant can maybe speak to what an appropriate number would be, and we should probably limit the number of students to a maximum, perhaps, of 30, as they've stated in their application. Finally, in a photograph provided by one of the residents, in objection to the project, it's visible from the street that there's a basketball hoop out on the parking lot. As a condition of approval, we should note that no outdoor recreational equipment should be located on the parking lot. With those conditions of approval, I recommend approval of both the parking reduction permit and the conditional use permit, and that concludes my staff report.
I do have a question. Do you know if any of the cited items, the unpermitted alterations and signs without permits, do you know if those have been fixed?
That I don't know. I believe that the photograph taken recently by the neighbor shows the signs still in place, but the applicant can maybe speak to that. I did speak to Renee Sada yesterday, the inspector for the area. He noted that these violations had existed and that he had issued warnings or advisories about the fact that these need to be corrected, but I'm sorry, I did not ask him if they have already been corrected.
All right. Thanks. Thanks to the staff report. The hearing is now open. I'd like to now call on the applicant to please come forward, Andrea Lee. And you have 15 minutes.
Good morning. The proposed business operation for the 3214 Honolulu, we've been operating it previously as a UCA application services until economy kind of hit us, and we decided maybe we want to try tutoring students. Previously, I did not know that there was a separate conditional use permit that was required to function as a private school until I did get a notice from Mr. Sada. So here we are trying to go through the CUP. Like Mr. Hamilton said, the hours of operation will be from 2 to 7. I believe the facility will not completely close at 7 because we'll be inside trying to do the wrapping up the day. So by 7:30, everyone should be out. Before 2 months ago, we had no tenants in the plaza. Therefore, we had the whole parking lot empty, and we did play some basketball hoops, not to constrain our students to be indoors, but now we do feel the need to be a lot more considerate for our surrounding neighbors. There are other businesses there and other cars that will be parked there, so those a basketball hoop or any activity outside will be terminated. We're going to keep all students indoor from 2 to 7 o'clock and try to minimize any noise that is going to happen outside. In terms of the violations that or citations we got for the signage and for some interior remodeling. Once we thought that once we go through this, we're gonna submit again the signage permits as required. I did email Mr. Sada that once we're done, we're gonna do the corrections. We would like to have them actually come and tell us what needs to be done before we actually start touching anything inside. So most of the partition wall that were there previously has been all taken down right now, and there's only one existing new wall in the front, which was placed there to keep our students for safety issues. We wanted to create a double door so that there's just not one door allowing students to go up, but they will have to go through two doors and a front desk personnel to keep an eye on them. As far as the parking spaces, we do have assigned 8 parking spaces for our locations. We do have 3 vans parked there at all times, which leaves us with 5 parking spaces. We try to leave those 5 parking spaces available for pickup times, which is peak time will be 5 to, I would say more like 5:30 to 6 o'clock. Our staff, I had asked them, 2 main staff will be parking inside, and if the rest of the staff, 2 or 3, will be parking on the street. Their parking time on the street would not go over 2 hours because every employee is on a part-time basis. There are students who just come in to tutor, and they are not parking on the street for more than 2.5 hours. As far as student capacity, yes, I do have 7 tables. They're not partition rooms, or they're not private rooms or anything. It's an open concept facility with just 7 tables. However, we don't normally get all the 7 tables fully enrolled for students, so we might range anywhere from, I would say, 20 to 30 students at any given time. And because there are different times that students come in for tutoring, it's always one leaves, one comes in, and it's not over the limit of our capacity, allowed capacity.
Okay.
Would there be any other things I will need to address?
Well, I just have a question. What do you do during summer when students are not enrolled in regular school?
Yes. During the summer, we have a slightly different schedule. Our summer is 7 weeks, and I do have the classes from 9 to 1, and then from 1 to 5. So those will be a different hour of operation than the regular business hours.
And what are the ages of the students?
We have students from first graders, which 6 years old, to 8th grade. That would be 13 years old.
You have them all in the same room?
No. They do come at different times because we do not want elementary school students and middle school students to mix.
And when people come for the tutoring, is it one of those things where they're there a few hours and then leave? Or do you have like a 1-hour class? How do you run the operation?
So we pick them up from school, and we start tutoring at 3 o'clock when school ends. And they'll sit at a table with a teacher. We want to have a 1-to-5 ratio for each class. So the teacher sits with a group of hopefully 5 students. Most of the time it's 2 to 3 for now. And we go over homeworks and projects, and we just keep them seated for the 2.5 hours until they get picked up 5:30 when the class ends.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
Not at this moment.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
And then next, I'd like to call up Gary Ohaganian.
Hi.
Hey.
I have a business right next door. Basically, my only concern is if there's 70 plus parking spaces required. The street has a lot of red curbs across street from me. Next to me is green. A lot of red, no parking pavements. So I'm just wondering if that could be a problem, or you guys can maybe change some of that, because they made right across street from us. They made it red like 2 months ago for no reason, without any notice. So basically, I don't know if that's going to be a problem.
Okay, so you're concerned with the red curb.
Yeah, there's red curb across street to the right, and then there's also a little bit red curb right near the driveway to the right and to the left of the entry.
Could I ask, maybe you could go up to the aerial photo and sort of point at where you're talking about?
Is it along Honolulu?
Yeah, this is red.
Okay.
This is all green. This did red for no. I didn't notice. Absolutely no reason for this. Like
Okay.
one space here, but this used to be like 4 spaces. Back to where it was, maybe that will help.
Okay.
And
if you do me a
there's
favor.
red too around here, but
Okay, I'm just going to repeat what you just said, so the people who are watching can see. The speaker identified several areas fronting the project site where there are red curbs that have been added. And so the concern is there anything that the city can do to find out why there's a red curb, and perhaps if it's not needed, maybe eliminate it?
yeah,
Is that your concern?
The one across street, that would help.
Yeah, I can't answer your question of why it was painted red curb, but we can certainly ask a question.
Right. We tried, but they wouldn't. We couldn't get a straight answer. But anyways, 70 plus parking necessary. Just I don't know. I don't know if they're going to use it. I'm not sure. But that was just my only concern.
Well, just to clarify the parking requirement, we don't have a parking requirement that specifically addresses tutoring. We just have one that addresses schools, and it's the same you would use for an elementary school.
Right.
Obviously, tutoring is not like an elementary school. We just don't have a different code standard that gives you anything different. So that's why we're actually looking, how many people are you actually going to have at the business? How has it operated in the past? We know there was a previous use that was very similar to this one. And so that's why we, in terms of looking at a parking reduction, yeah, it looks like a lot of spaces. That's why we're trying to determine what is the actual need for this use. In terms of off-street parking, and we'll have to research that too. I can't tell you why it was painted red curb, but I do understand your concern.
Yeah, that's just basically it. And kind of when they say it requires 70%, I'm not sure what she was going to do. So she's not going to use 70 parkings. I mean, but still, there's the employees. I'm not sure how many parkings they're going to use up. But I've been there 10 years. They haven't had too much parking issue except when they did the red recently and 3 months ago.
Now you're across the street, or are you right next? Are you at the same center?
I'm like one more up to the right.
The auto repair?
You're right.
Okay.
So across the street from me, they just did that whole place red for no reason actually.
Okay.
But
do your employees park on the street, or do they park
just
in
one?
the lot? Okay. Okay.
One, and I park usually inside myself. We don't use up too much space, but I just don't know what the future will hold with how they're going to run their business.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to call forward. Do I have Ovanes, followed by Arlette?
My name is Ovanes Derovanesyan. I am a neighbor there, two or three buildings to the west on the same side of the street, on 3236 Honolulu Avenue, number 105.
Okay.
With all due respect, I was counting the parkings that you are showing behind you. They are not 19, they are 18 parking spaces in that shopping area.
Okay.
I have taken the task of measuring all the parking lengths all the way from Pennsylvania to New York, that block. And in that area, both north and side of the sides of the street, there are a total of 71 parking spaces only, with taking in mind that the city, when they mark parking spaces, they mark it for 20 foot long each. Mm-hmm. I have measured with a measuring wheel, and there are only 71 parking spaces in that
stretch
block. You are giving a 73 parking space reduction. We don't have that much even parking space in that street. I don't know what something does not match. They have been operating there, yes, I know. I have been living there for 26 years now. But we have parking problem, a serious parking problem in the street. And this parking reduction will affect our way of life, our property prices, and everything regarding our property and lifestyle there. That's all I want to say.
Do you have a parking right now that's off the street, or do you have to park on the street?
No, I have a parking off the street under my building, yeah.
Okay.
We have underground parking, but this is where I live is a 6-unit condo, townhouses, and some each has a 2-space separate parking under the building, but some of the owners, they have 3 cars, they park out the third one out too, and we have really a serious problem already. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, but it's a general parking problem, or is it this business in particular?
No, it's a general parking problem there,
okay.
And this might add to that problem.
All right, thank you. And next I'd like to call forward Arlette.
Hi, everyone. I'm Arlette Derovanesyan, residing at 3236 Honolulu. The issue is that with all the apartment buildings and houses in that area, we know that when there is 1 bedroom, there's usually 1 or 2 parking situations. When there are 2, there are maybe 3 or 4 parking areas needed. And most of the buildings, they have only accommodating 2. So every family that lives there has at least 1 or 2 additional cars parked in the street. Having in mind that there are not more than 71 spaces, as it shows, we are short of space as far as accommodating people. Now, having an educational institution in our neighborhood is great. We love that. I have been with Glendale Unified School District for 30 years. I'm an educator myself. But having in mind that at any given time there are 30 students and 7 employees, and knowing the parking situation in that area, this is going to be very inconvenient, especially that, the hours that they are operating or the time that people come back home from their work, driving hours on the streets. When they get back, they need to have a space and spot to be able to park. And they have resided there in good faith, and taking that away from them, I don't know if that would be that fair for the neighborhood. Most of them have talked to me. I'm very busy and involved with the city as well in different capacities. And they have talked to me because, this hour of the day, most of them are working, and it's very hard for them to come and show up. But this is a major issue, and we want you to consider that. Having given vans. Now, talking about the red areas usually are added because in that street, because it's close to the freeway entrance, and it is right after the park, which is on the corner of. So cars drive very fast, and also parking spots and vans in the street also make the kind of the driver coming out of the parkway parking cannot see. So they have to force themselves to get the red area to protect from additional injuries and incidents. So that's basically it. I wanted this to be considered for the well-being of the community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And then I'd like to call forward the applicant again. Andrea, if you have any additional comments you'd like to make in response to what you've heard.
Well, I'd like to appease all the residents of our business that our business will not be adding on to the parking situation. The shortage will not be affected by our business being there because our instructors or our staff will be parking on our premises. And if there is any, perhaps maybe one or two who would need to, their parking would not last more than 2 hours or 2 hours and a half max. Now, I do understand that every family might have 2-3 cars and they will need all the parking spaces available to park their cars on the street. And I am very aware of that. Therefore, at 5:30, when my neighboring business are closed, our teachers are asked to park their vehicles inside our parking lot. Even when we do utilize 7 parking spaces for our staff, we still have 10 parking spaces left for parents to do the pickup. Our parents do not pick up on the street. It's a very quick, maybe 30-second stop. They pick up their kids and they'll be leaving. We are not parking overnight there. As in fact, one of the 3 vans, which I utilize as my own vehicle too, I drive off with that car home, and so there's only 2 parking spaces that are going to be utilized throughout the night. We do allow tenants to even park overnight. We've done it in the past. We did send out notices prohibiting that because it was in conflict with some of the new tenants' hours of operation. But as far as for my business, when we had to start working, the neighboring our neighbors had to be out to work, and it was no problem. It was not even an issue. Saturday, Sunday, we're not there. I guess anybody is allowed to use the parking spaces. I think a lot of people do, because when I sometimes stop by on Saturdays, the parking lot is completely full. That doesn't bother us, but I want to reiterate that our business would not congest traffic, would not cause any parking shortage just by being there due to the system that we have and our operation.
Okay. And then also you heard the conditions of approval. I know they're in the report, and you have also heard the suggested 3 additional conditions of approval. Do you have any comments about those? They would be related to restricting the hours of operation, the number of employees, and the number of students. And then the last one was removing any play equipment from the parking lot.
Right.
That's it? Okay.
I'd just like to clarify. Ms. Lee mentioned that during the summer, her hours might start as early as 9 a.m.
9.
So for the conditions of approval, we might have 2, like
Summer hours
from Labor
versus
Day
school
till
hours.
Memorial Day, certain hours of operation, and then Memorial Day to Labor Day, maybe earlier hours of operation, something like that.
Do you also have a similar to summer hours during different, like spring break or winter break?
No,
Okay.
only during the summer.
Only during the summer? All right. During the summer, is it similar where parents drop off their kids
Yes.
and then they leave and then, okay. All right. All right, thanks. Do you have anything else to add?
I think I'm fine.
I don't have any other questions. I'm now closing the public hearing. This case will be taken under submission, and I will be preparing a decision. You'll be all receive, if you've left your name and address, you'll all receive a copy of the letter. And there are no further items on this agenda. This meeting is now adjourned, and thank you for attending.